I'm 14 years old, and I'm here speaking on behalf of my friends in public school. I do not go to public school, but my friends who do are affected by the decisions made by the school board, and so am I. I know a 6-year-old boy who came home from school one day with food from his lunch inside his mask. That's not healthy. I've often seen people with infections on their faces from wearing masks, which proves they trap food, sweat, and spit, and become breeding grounds for bacteria, especially when students don't wash their cloth masks or when they rewear paper masks. This is not sanitary for children or adults. Bacteria doesn't just come from wearing them. I've also seen many kids touching, playing with, and dropping their masks and putting them back on, right along with all the germs they've collected from their hands or the ground. Masks send a message of fear. By requiring students to wear masks, you're telling the community that they should fear children. This is a false message, because according to the CDC, quote, fewer children have been sick with COVID-19 compared to adults, end of quote. It is also sending the message to children that they should be scared of each other, which again is false. According to the Pinellas County Data Dashboard, about 4,500 cases have occurred in children 15 and under. This may sound like a high number, but there are a total of nearly 1 million people in Pinellas County. This is 0.4% of the population. This shows that children are less likely to get COVID-19 than adults are. Like I said, I don't go to public school, but when I'm out in public with my family, I have received dirty looks and comments because my family has chosen to abide by the county guidelines and not make us wear masks. However, since kids wear masks to school, people assume that children should wear masks in public, and when we don't, they get angry at our personal choice. So your choice doesn't just affect kids in public school, it affects private and homeschool students too. Thank you for your time, and please consider the facts and make the right decision and not require children in schools to wear masks.
Thank you.
I'm here today because Pinellas County is essentially denying my children the right to their free public education that my tax dollars pay for. They're denying them this right unless they wear a mask, a medical action that can have negative health consequences, and that has never even been studied for the long daily duration that kids are currently being asked to wear the masks for. Lisa Kane excluded, this school board is letting their own irrational fears and false narratives rule their decision-making, not what is best for our children and not based on science. Last week, Governor DeSantis held a roundtable with several extremely well-respected, world-renowned medical experts, and I really think you all should listen to it. All 4 experts agreed unanimously that children should be in schools without masks or social distancing. They repeatedly pointed out the complete lack of any empirical data supporting the effectiveness of mask mandates anywhere. And on the contrary, they gave evidence of places where children have successfully been going to school with no masks or social distancing and no COVID deaths. They also referred to data on children's extremely low risk from COVID, that children are not significant spreaders to adults, and that children and most teachers do not fall into the high-risk categories for COVID. Please watch the video. On that topic, the fact that every single graph comparing mask mandate areas to no mask mandate areas shows the same exact curve of COVID cases and deaths, whether there was a mandate or not, should tell a logical person that masks have no effect. Yet you, the people in charge of educating our children, teaching them logic and critical thinking, are looking at that data and still choosing to force our kids to wear masks all day, every day, forcing them to wear something that could have serious and permanent negative health consequences, despite it being shown to have no actual effect on COVID spread. I wonder how many of you have worn a mask for 7 hours straight, 5 days a week. As long as you continue to mandate our children wear masks, I think you should have to. I think you should see how you feel with the headaches, fatigue, who knows what other damage from reduced oxygen and increased CO2, not to mention all the extra bacteria you'll be trapping around your mouth for future tooth decay and gum disease issues. Although I'm sure you'll fare a little better than our kids, since at the very least you should be old enough not to constantly touch your mask all day, thus depositing more germs and bacteria on it, the way children obviously do. The truth is, you have no idea what long-term physical or mental effects this experiment is having on children. And the fact that you're continuing to do it when even the experts have yet to produce data that shows it has a true effect is criminal. Please unmask our kids.
And I have 4 children enrolled in the Pinellas County school system, and one of them being my youngest girl with special needs. I'm here today to advocate for my children and appeal to the school board to allow our kids to learn and flourish in the school again. My 4 children have been in person since the start of this academic year, and we had completed the previous school year virtually, as had everyone. Learning virtually had been very challenging, especially for one of my kids. My children missed their friends. They didn't like having to sit in front of a computer for hours at a time, and we are all very grateful when they went back to school to some sort of normalcy for them. When the school year started, there were many who stated it would cause a massive explosion of COVID throughout our state. This simply didn't happen. In fact, as the second semester started, Pinellas County Schools moved more children back in January with no surge. A common day described by my kids: we arrive in class, all to have our friends separated, segregated, and behind plexiglass. Everyone is masked. It's hard to understand the teacher, and the teacher has a struggle to understand us. We go to lunch, only 3 at a table, again separated by plexiglass, unable to really communicate while we sit in a very quiet cafeteria. Even when we go to PE or recess, we're required to maintain separation and cannot play normally. One of my daughters, she had to play tag with a pool noodle because there's no contact. During this year, we've had to deal with unusual circumstances, such as my other child being chastised by a teacher for simply sharing a pencil with a fellow student in need, or my middle school student who has band class outside in a mask. He's in a fundamental school, so he's in pants with a slit in his mask, trying to play his French horn. My last child has to carry a backpack that's over 20 pounds because there's no locker for him. I'm appealing to the school board to allow our children to return to complete normalcy when they go back in August for the next academic year. It's my hope that this year will provide my kids with the ability to interact with students, develop the much-needed social skills they need. As a community, we all have embraced diversity. However, in our schools, we have very limited individuality. We're segregated and they're masked each day. Should the school board decide to maintain the current restrictions, this will be the 3rd academic year impacted. As adults, we have looked back fondly on our milestones and our experiences in school. Right now, they can't even do a field trip. I feel terrible for the ones who are graduating with no prom. As a junior, nothing looking different this year. 13 years of schooling, no celebration. The school board might think that this is a small and unfortunate decision that must be made during this very unique time. However, as reported by the National Public Radio in February, the country is seeing a surge in mental health issues with our students. The CDC reported 2.5 times the suicide rate has gone up with our students. The mental health crisis is becoming a public health crisis. I'm just urging the school board to please reconsider going back to complete normalcy. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to start off by just saying thank you for having these meetings, opening this up to the public so you can get a tone on the parents and the community. My name is Jason Hayner. I'm a lieutenant paramedic with the City of Clearwater Fire Department. My wife, Sarah Hayner, has been with Pinellas County Schools for 9 years. We're both very invested in the community. We care, like you guys, about our children and their well-being. We're advocates of the public school system. We want this school system to be successful and do well for all of our children. And with that, I'd like to just give you a little bit of my thought and many parents out there like me. We recognize and understand the value of masks when COVID first started and what we were trying to accomplish with that, which was to stop the droplet spread and keep our children safe and get them back in school so we can resume some normalcy. Obviously, a lot has happened with education, science-wise, from when the pandemic first started. And what we now know about masks is that at best, they are inconclusive as far as the droplet count that is prevented and the effectiveness of the mask. We also know that science continues to evolve, and now we're being told potentially that 2 masks is better than 1, and really the implication behind that would be that 1 mask really is not that effective. There are several studies. One of the most recent that Duke University just put out is that the face gaiters that we wear that are made of spandex and polyester are not effective in stopping the spread of the coronavirus, and the gaiters are approved by Pinellas County Schools to wear to protect our children. And we know that there's a lot of variables with the mask, right? How it's worn, the compliance of the children, what the material is, how it's clean, and does it fit properly. All of these things go into the effectiveness of the mask. And so I think we potentially could agree that at best it's somewhat controversial inconclusive, and out of respect for your position, you do have a liability to protect our children, and I recognize and appreciate the steps you guys have taken to keep our children safe and to put them back in schools. But it feels very liability-driven. What we know now about the side effects of the mask is that in a percentage of our children, it does cause fear and anxiety. That is somewhat subjective. Some kids obviously have no problem with it. They think it's fun, they think it's cool, but we also do know that there are many children that have fear and anxiety of the mask when they get out of my vehicle to go into school at the car line and they've forgotten their mask. There was a small panic attack. Oh no, I have forgotten my mask. And as a parent, that does grieve my heart, and I know I share that feeling with many other parents, to see that moment of panic as if they will be disciplined or potentially catch a disease that will kill them.
Thank you.
We know that this delays and inhibits learning.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes
Oh.
has expired.
Okay.
If there's more that you want us to know, you can give it to us in writing, and we'll share that with the board. You can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I have been a student, a parent, and a grandparent in the Pinellas County school system for over 50 years now. And today I'm actually honored and a little apprehensive about speaking to you today. My apprehension comes from the fact that you cannot see my facial expressions and I can't see yours. So as when you speak, it's comforting to have that kind of confrontation. Which in return makes my thoughts and sharing much easier. Which leads me to, what are we actually teaching our children? Are they learning? What are they actually learning, feeling, and comprehending when their teachers are communicating with them? Did you know that a scientific American study found that facial expressions such as smiling can improve moods, thoughts, and learning? Did you know that smiling relates endorphins, which helps a person feel happier and more positive? Did you know smiles motivate a person and boost their self-esteem, helping them utilize their talent and passion? Did you know that a teacher's smile generates a positive learning ecosystem that supports their vocal contact and skills in a stress-free manner? Did you know some children only see smiles from their teachers and friends at school because of a dysfunctional home life? Recently, I had a conversation with my grandchildren. They're 6th and 9th grade, and they've always been happy to go to school and happy to experience all the things at school. And just yesterday, my granddaughter, I had picked her up she goes to a charter school, and she had mentioned that she didn't like school because it was hard to communicate with her friends and her teacher without seeing their smile. Also, did you know, lastly, I trust that a plan going forward to address the psychological damage that has been done to the children, which are our future generation, is being implemented. In closing, I just want to share that a smile is a curve that sets everyone straight. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
I'm reading a prepared statement by a Pinellas County social media influencer about the forced mask, and it's not okay. Today we cross a full-year milestone of our kids being forced to wear masks all day long. How is it that under the advice of Dr. Cho, the county commission writes into its ordinance that kids under 18 shall be the sole medical discretion of their parents when it comes to masks? Yet under this body, advised by the same doctor, you've all concluded to force the kids in school to wear masks all day regardless of their parents' medical choice. When we look at the COVID numbers in the counties, both in and out of Florida, with non-masked kids in schools, they are not higher, and in some cases, they are actually lower. The teachers' union needs to get a grip. The seasonal flu is, in fact, statistically way more dangerous to kids, yet we never force them to wear masks for that. And why is that? We all know why this is. I've seen many Instagram, Snap, and TikTok videos all year long on the insides of Pinellas County middle and high schools. When these kids leave classrooms, they are in no way social distancing or keeping masks on the hallways, nor when they leave the building. Yet when they sit inside the classroom, they must. There is no logic here. This is propaganda, and you all know that. When you leave this building, I want you to think about this. As adults, some of us put these masks on and it sits on our adult-sized nose with about an inch of triangle space to suck in our own air. But think about how small the little kids' noses are. They barely stick out past their mouths, so these kids all day, that mask right up against their nose and mouth with very little or none of that triangle space that we adults have. They also take shorter and faster breaths. This is not healthy, not physically, mentally, emotionally, or educationally. There is more to prove negative effects of masks on children than there is even the theory of protection from cloth masks. What is being perpetrated on all of these kids is actually disgusting. Medical precautions are a parent's choice, not a school board's. Imagine if we had made kids with HIV wear masks. We are participating in Black Plague Theater for SARS-CoV-2 virus with a 99% survival. This presents a troubling danger to all our children as we can no longer identify them in schools. Just 2 weeks ago, a brave little girl was bullied for the 5th time in 2 weeks, and nothing can be done this time as the students can't be identified since they are wearing a mask. This is a direct assault on our children's right to be protected by Pinellas County schools. To date, more kids have been seriously injured in Pinellas County schools by assault than kids getting ill from all of COVID. Let that sink in. You are trading our children's safety from a serious injury for the false security of a cloth mask for a virus which is 99% innocuous. This is nothing but theater at the demand of the unions. Thank you.
Good morning, how are you? I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. You never guess what I'm going to talk about, but I'd like to comment on the health and safety protocols for the remainder of this year and for next year. You know, I think we've been doing a lot of good things as a school district here, or you have. Specifically, some of the protocols put in place for this school year. I know it was tough decisions, but you know, the increased sanitization of the facilities has been fantastic, and research has shown that having kids that have symptoms staying at home and not going to school, that's the most effective way to, you know, reduce the spread of any virus, really. I would say moving forward, I'd like to recommend reconsidering the mandatory mask requirements to be, you know, optional for students. Reason being is research has shown on adults, it's limited on kids obviously, but on adults, about 70% of individuals wearing masks for prolonged periods of time can experience headaches. Things like a hypoxic condition within the body can exist, and that's, you know, that's not great for our kids, right? We've also seen, you know, skin irritation, as some of the other speakers have mentioned, and that's just kids playing with their masks all day, and that's not a great environment for them to learn. And so I would recommend reconsidering those for next year or earlier if possible to, you know, remove the mandate for masks. I appreciate you guys taking care of our kids and expect that you'll keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's still morning. My name is Anne Marie, and just so you have a glimpse into my point of view, I am a former teacher of PCSB and now a very active volunteer. I have seen a lot in the last 16 years and have had many opinions on various items, but have not once come here. To be honest, I've always felt it often seems to fall on deaf ears as the speaker speaks and there's no response from the board. I wonder why they do it, but now I get it. I have to speak for the many like me. Last summer, I sat through every one of your live workshops and meetings. I listened and I waited and I heard all of your discussions on if we could go back to school. Then the school district, not the board, presented a plan. After much discussion, fear, and questions, most of you were still reluctant to agree to send our children back to school. Granted, that was a tough decision, and I empathize with that. And wouldn't you agree now that you absolutely did what was best for children? The anecdotal evidence of children who have not gone back that are struggling in so many ways is sad and disheartening. The CDC itself now encourages children to go to school during these times. That wasn't written in the language initially. My point here is that the CDC did not explicitly say, go back to school, but you all were ahead and we did. I'm here today on behalf of my children and many others who are ready to take the next step back to what school actually is. Today, I focus on visitors on campus and returning my right as a parent to choose if and when my child will wear a mask. It's time to pull back the fear veil just a little bit more, much like you did last summer. On March 17th, 2021, per the CDC, the cases of COVID-19 in school-aged children was 17 out of 100,000. And if you compare that to our district size of around 102,000 students, that is only a 0.00017 infection rate. There is consistent proof in the data from the CDC that the infection and thereby transmission rate among the youth is incredibly low. So why then the 6.5-hour-a-day, 5-day mask use? Why, when they are walking outside, is it on when they can take it off at PE? I understand that you might not likely take full steps in this school year, but for this school year, as we enter the upper 90s in temperature, no child, if their parent so chooses, should be forced to wear a mask to get from place to place when they are outside. Think about the logic of this. Like I said, at PE, they take off their masks because they're outside. So why then must they wear them outside in other scenarios? This, with the removal of the 6 feet physical distancing and removal of physical barrier recommendations just put on the CDC's website, seems to me like an area to be reconsidered for this school year. Moving forward, Dr. Grego and school administration, I specifically urge you to present to this board with least restrictive ways to move forward and lead the way next school year as you did this. We have proved to the critics that we can go back this year. Now let's, for the good of our children, move on with some more stakeholder involvement and a least restrictive educational environment once again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maya Lembo. I am 8 years old and now a homeschool student because my parents don't want my face covered just to go to school. I miss my friends and teachers, and I miss being able to see their faces. As a homeschooler, this has been the best year of my life. I've been eating healthy food, playing outside with my sister, and getting more time with my family, and of course, not having to wear a mask. But I'm sad for my friends because by wearing masks, it is hurting their healthy immune systems, and they are being forced to social distance. Kids need to be outside, playing in the sun with their friends. They need to be eating healthier food like fruit, vegetables, and they need to be drinking water all the time. Me and my little sister just started meeting up with other homeschool families. I can see their faces and we are allowed to breathe. We are allowed to play without worrying about social distancing. When I am out with my sister in stores, people are so happy to be able to see our faces. The kids I see in stores with masks on have very sad looks in their eyes and seem confused why they are having to do this all the time. It's time to put a stop to this so more kids can return to school without wearing a mask. Unmask our children and let their smiles free. Thank you for your time today. Happy Easter.
Thank you.
So recently I met two superintendents and a few retired teachers, and they all couldn't be happier that this was all behind them now because of the decisions that you are all faced with today. We know you care about our children, and it can't be easy for you right now with all the polarization going on, and I've just never seen so much division in my 64 years. So I have friends that worked for pharmaceutical companies in the PR with marketing, and they know firsthand what goes on behind the scenes. They've made millions of dollars planning with pharmaceutical companies, putting like in the movie industry and songs and TV, a word here, a word there, a sentence, a paragraph. They said it took 10 years to get the public used to the idea of taking a diet pill. They never would have done it. It took 10 years. And I know they know what they're talking about because they did it for a long time, and they were at the top of their fields. So part of what's going on is fear, and fear is selling, and they have us all out of our minds with just, what we have to do. Putting on these masks is part of it, and we're just playing into their hands by doing it. So we have to really just stand up and say no. The pharmaceutical companies are making, I don't know how much money. They spend billions of dollars in advertising, and they get a say with what they do and how they control us. I had COVID, friends of mine have had COVID, all seniors. None of us were hospitalized. We followed a protocol. There's treatment available. We don't have to be that scared. There is treatment available, and we have to understand that. There's a Dr. Joseph Mercola, a Dr. David Brownstein. TheHighWire.com is a website you can go to. And this man, he interviews people from all over the world, tops in their fields. They're not influenced by pharmaceutical advertising dollars, and so you're getting the truth. We don't have to be afraid. So I thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time to be here and to share with you my thoughts. I noticed that you began this meeting with a community reverend or pastor or member of the clergy. And so I would like to start what I'm going to share with you with a verse of scripture, which is found in Proverbs chapter 31, verses 8 and 9. And this is actually the reason that I'm here. It says, "Open your mouth for the dumb, or those who can't speak, for the rights of all the unfortunate, or those under the care of someone else. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the afflicted and the needy." You have taken parents' rights away from making the medical decisions for their children, which is unjust, unlawful, unnecessary. I won't go into all, you've heard all of the stats, all of the science. You can find science to support any viewpoint you want to, but I would like to read you a letter. Usually when I speak, it's not like this. I usually speak in front of hundreds of people. I have a group of people. I work in health and wellness. I'm a grandma. I'm actually a graduate of Pinellas County Schools. I went to Belcher Elementary. I went to Oak Grove Middle School, and I graduated from Clearwater High School. For some reason, I'm really nervous to speak here today, when normally I'm not. But I would like to read you a letter from one of my family, not my family, but one of the families that's in my organization. Okay. All right, it's right here. Okay. I am heartbroken this morning. I need your prayers, I need your love, I need your support. My son has been struggling with COVID, with the school schedules changing, with all of the rules and regulations, confusion, sadness. I know lots of kids are struggling, but lately his mental health has been deteriorating. He's been saying things that make us believe he may harm himself. We are headed to the emergency room with my 11-year-old. I am crying my head off. I'm trying to stay strong, but I feel like I'm crumbling into dust. He's my baby. Even though he's 11, I still see him as that 6-week-old who I rescued. I can't think straight. All I see is my son, his dark eyes, no smile, not even sure why he's alive. He's confused. I need a miracle. He didn't ask for this. The whole quarantine, remote school, schools changing. Suicide is up in our children.
Thank you.
Do the right thing.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The potential harms masks can cause to youth outweigh not only the health benefits, but also outweigh the risks to them and the public rather than if they are not wearing masks. I have emailed the school board, and I have the prepared written statements here if anybody wants a copy. Everything stated today is based on legitimate source material referenced and quoted in those documents. The school systems in Sweden and Denmark during the pandemic and still to this day do not require masks. Both have proven that youth are not likely to become severely affected by the virus, nor are they likely to transmit. There has been a low incidence of severe COVID-19 amongst school children and children of preschool age during the pandemic. There is significantly lower transmission of SARS-2 to children than adults. Child deaths from SARS-2 are rare. Sweden and Denmark have proven all this. Further, there was no higher rate of infection among the school children in Sweden who had no school-wide mask mandate, whose schools were never closed for children under 16, as opposed to Finland, whose schools remained closed during the pandemic. So there was no difference between one that was closed and one that was open with no masks in infections. Considering that Sweden had no mask mandates, there was no additional household risk for the elderly co-residing with children still in school during the pandemic. In Sweden, during school sessions of the 4 months through the peak of the pandemic, that nasty peak they had of deaths, the ICU COVID cases were one child in 130,000. For teachers, risks for being ICU COVID among preschool teachers and among school teachers were just 1.1 and 0.43, respectively. The likelihood of potential harms of masking youths is inevitable. Facial emotional recognition, that's FER, and reading faces in general is considered one of the most primary faculties in the neurodevelopment and to the development of basic psychosocial skills in youth. Since masks cover most of the face, it's not a stretch to conclude that FER, that is facial emotional recognition in youth, it's not a stretch to conclude that it will be ultimately impaired and or damaged as a result of constant mask wearing. If the FER faculty is disrupted, it is linked to psychopathology as both a precursor and byproduct of disorders. Considering that FER is developed structurally through childhood and adolescence, and since masks cover most of the face, then the masking of youth will inevitably impede or damage their FER development. This is likely to cause a spike in mental health care costs Pinellas County-wide, particularly due to the need for a massive volume of potential diagnoses due to such an important neurodevelopment and psychosocial faculty being disrupted in the youth countywide. It's therefore no exaggeration that the consistent masking of children and adolescents will be detrimental to their...
Thank you. You can leave that with the person out there and they'll get it to us. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to bring up facts from the Governor DeSantis roundtable talks with epidemiologists from around the world. Dr. Atlas stated that our country was willing to sacrifice its children out of fear, and this is the biggest tragedy of the pandemic. Fear is the contagion. The cure cannot be worse than the disease. Per Governor DeSantis, masks in public is not evidence-based science. Masks are harmful and have caused a great social division. Dr. Atlas stated children are not significant spreaders to adults. Masks are not effective for their own protection or the protection of others. This feeling was unanimous across the board. Surgical mask boxes state this product is not a respirator and will not provide any protection against COVID-19 or other viruses or contaminants. The CDC did a study on masks in May of 2020 that masks do not stop the spread of viral infection. Dr. Gupta from Oxford stated, masks have very high negative impacts on children and are deeply damaging. The virus models were extremely wrong with their predictions, and none of our hospitals were overwhelmed. The media right now is talking about cases and not deaths. We cannot sacrifice our children because of fear of some adults. Our children are suffering psychologically, and the damage will take a very long time to repair. All of these epidemiologists at the governor's health discussion stated teachers are at absolutely no risk from our unmasked children. I just ask that you allow them to return to a normal life with the normal sports, proms, and graduations, and that is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here on behalf of the 1,500 members of Pinellas Watch. School board, what are you doing? What are you doing masking these children? None of you sitting up there are medical doctors. You're not my kid's doctor. None of you are doctors. How is it prescribing my healthy kid to wear a mask any of your business? School board members, you're elected. We voted for you. Tell you what, why don't you have the courage to take a straw poll right now, and if 51% of the parents say you should resign, then resign. We don't want you as our representatives. There's no reason for these kids to be masked. I've seen parents come in here for a year and be as gracious as they could possibly be to you. Too gracious. You're harming our children. You have no data, no science, no facts, no study, no medical evaluation, no psychological evaluation. All you have is junk science, the recommendation of Dr. Cho, whose county has received tens of millions of dollars in CARES funding to keep this going. That's your expert. That's your conflict of interest expert that you're listening to. You don't have the credentials, none of you, to advise me to put a mask on my child. Teachers are not dropping dead in Pinellas. Students are not dropping dead in Pinellas. It's a virus. You know what? There's been a virus every year in our schools since we were in school. We've accepted this nonsense for way too long because you know what? At the beginning, We thought y'all knew maybe something we didn't know. We were wrong. We were wrong to ever allow you people this much power. You've abused it. You're abusing our children. You should all resign. You should all resign. You need to unmask these children. We don't have confidence in you anymore. You need to unmask these children. Unmask these children.
I have a lung disease, so I have to hold this open so I can get air because I have a lung and heart problem. And if I don't get enough air, my heart beats too fast and then I can't breathe. So that's why I'm holding it open, not to be disrespectful.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to tell you that I didn't know about this until this morning at 6 o'clock. And as I was drinking my coffee, I got on the internet, and the first two things that I looked up was about the mask. And in Europe, the Center of Disease Prevention and Control, their evidence suggests that young children do not spread the virus easily. We have a researcher here in the United States, and he was just on TV this morning as I was drinking my coffee. God does have a sense of humor. He does answer prayers. He came on, and his name is Boomer R. Collins. And he has proof that the CDC has made false numbers for the COVID, that they have moved the real deaths people. So let's say they died, they were in the hospital for a heart attack, and then they got tested for COVID, and then they died. They were on their death certificate, they would put down COVID and then the heart attack. So we will never know what the real numbers are. And that is so sad because without really knowing the real numbers and the real truth, and how do we come to conclusions or to fix this problem without the real numbers? So second of all, like I was telling you, I do have COPD, and I've had bypass, and I have an irregular heartbeat. And I was near death, and I ended up getting on this experiment drug. And it has changed my life. I don't take any more steroids. I'm not on it. I only do one inhaler a day, but I was on nebulizers 4 times a day, so I couldn't really go very far because I had all these drugs, and I couldn't walk without breathing. But these 2 specialists of mine put me on zinc, vitamin D, C, elderberry, and I have not been sick. After 6 months of being on this vitamin cocktail, I don't get sick anymore. I was in the hospital for colds, for pneumonia. It's just been amazing what these cocktails do. So I truly believe we should be advertising this instead of these masks that really don't have anything to do when we have things that really do work. My doctors also said I need to get healthy. So they said to keep my weight down and to keep physically strong. Well, I have a grandson that I take to school. How can you run around with these things? How can you stay strong with this mask on you?
Thank you.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm back again. I wanted to let you guys know that my throat hurts just from wearing this mask for the last 2 hours. What is that? Last 2 hours waiting to speak, and I thought, I don't even know how you guys do this all day. And then I remembered that you don't. I've been to your back office. You're full of garbage. You don't wear your masks all day, but you require teachers to and kids to. I just think that's really wrong. So last time I came in, I had asked you guys to learn to be honest, right? Be honest with yourselves. Be honest with the public. Stop towing party lines. Stop sucking up the agenda. And just be honest, because that's what you are hired to do. I swear, you guys project, right? Like when you guys said civil discourse, you know, we're back there laughing at you because we're like, civil discourse, was that kind of civil like the time the mom was thrown to the ground with her 13-year-old daughter out in the hallway? You could hear the screaming on the tape from people in here speaking. When she was thrown to the ground for not wearing a mask as they walked out of the building, right? Thrown to the ground. You can hear the little kid slap the ground with her body when the officer threw her to the ground. I was here, I remember it. You know, so like it's kind of interesting that you're like civil discourse because you honestly don't mean it. You guys doublespeak a lot. Now, I have proof of doublespeak. Do you know that people know who you are? They know your faces. And around town, I get sent photographs of you guys in places of business, inside this building, not wearing masks. If you're gonna make a child who can't help themselves wear a mask, you need to do your part, tape it to your head, keep it on, because you'll see how very unpleasant it is. Number 2, the sunshine laws and workshops. I have requested multiple times. Let's have a workshop where we actually have discourse, because at this point we just yell at you. You guys, ignore us for an hour or two and then you go home. You might, drink or binge eat, whatever you do to get over the stress. But what I'd really like to do is a workshop. I have requested multiple times to be invited to the workshop for a period of about 5 years. That's half a decade, for those of you who can count. Half a decade, I've been requesting to come in. So David Kapersky, where you is? Is David Kapersky out here? Hey, I would like to be invited to a workshop, sir. I'm officially requesting. We have an attorney now who's willing to work with us. I want to be invited to the workshop. I want a parent workshop event where all y'all show up, all y'all answer questions, and we have civil discourse. I was told by Caprice Edmonds that we can't do that per the Sunshine Law. That's a half-truth. I don't know if she was ignorant of it or if she just didn't want to meet with us. You can meet with us all together. You just have to record it and make it public. So once again, start being honest, guys. Okay, let that be your lesson for today. The word honesty, H-O-N-E-S-T-Y, honesty. Perfect.
Hello, board members. My name is Lindsay, and I am the parent of 2 boys who attend Sunset Hills Elementary. I stand before you, like many other parents have today, asking you to finally end the mask mandate. Our children have been denied personal autonomy long enough, and parents have been denied the right to decide what is right for their own children. It is not the responsibility of my 2nd grader nor my kindergartner to make a teacher, a parent of a student, or anybody else for that matter, feel safe. And that is all masks really do, offer a false sense of security. If any of you watched the recent roundtable discussion Governor DeSantis had with the medical professionals, then you would have heard, I believe his name was Dr. Gupta, say it is not necessary for children to wear masks to protect themselves or others. In fact, they go on to say masks do very little to prevent the spread of the virus. We all pay property taxes that fund the schools and spend hundreds of dollars every school year on supplies and snacks for our classrooms. We deserve to be heard on this issue and at least come to some sort of compromise. If you continue to ignore our repeated requests, I'm sorry, I lost where I was. If you continue to ignore our repeated requests on this issue, then I suggest you guys start allocating some money for classroom supplies because we'll stop providing them. You can't choose to accept our financial contributions but continue to ignore our repeated requests on this issue. In closing, I would like to thank Ms. Lisa Kane. I wish she was here today. Oh, she is, okay. I'd like to thank you for being the only member of the board who has not abused your position of power, and believes masks should be a parent's choice. So thank you, Ms. Kane. And as for the rest of you, shame on you for turning this into something political. Thank you.
Hi. So let's be clear, the facts are the facts. The average death rate before the Rona was 79 years old. I want y'all to process this. The average death rate last year with the Rona is 79 years old with 2.9 comorbidities. 70% of the deaths are over the age of 80. Did you know that we had a 100% increase in suicide last year? Did anybody know that? We had 100,000 suicide deaths. We had a 30% increase in drug overdoses. But you're not getting that from the mainstream media. That's not happening. The pediatricians came out last year on mainstream media saying that children were not affected by this virus. So I might not have kids in school today, and if I did, they would not be in public school. I would be homeschooling them. How dare I, as a parent, to send my child to a school to be masked and taught by teachers who are masked? So this right here and what you're wearing on your face is not normal. This is, and stop making it normal. We are social conditioning the children. And it's been a year. Unmask our children. What you all are participating in and how you lay your heads down at night is the psychological dismantling of our children. That's what you're participating in. So if you can go to sleep at night and have a good night's sleep, then more power to you. The mask symbolizes and is bringing about the deletion of self-identities and destroying human interaction. Our children are now being raised in fear, fear of each other, fear of the world, of illnesses, of viruses, and even the air that they breathe. They are being taught to fear everything. And prolonged fear is terror, and terror becomes trauma, which could last for a lifetime and will. So the psychological damage being done to the children is irreversible, and y'all are participating in that. I am a parent of children that I raised and I fed them. So if you're not going to go and buy their groceries and control what people put in their mouths, whether it's a cigarette or alcohol, you don't need to be controlling what our kids put on their faces. I refuse, in closing. And by the way, we're in a case-demic, right? There's no deaths. Remember that. These children are not affected and they are not spreaders. So I don't know why you guys are holding firm to this, but I refuse to let my now grown kids think what's happening now is normal and okay, because it's neither normal, and I will continue to teach them to resist the nonsense with every fiber of my being. So please, make a decision to unmask our children, and at the very, very least, let it be a choice. God bless.
Good afternoon, Commission, board members, Superintendent. I'm going to be short but sweet. The unelected president is now in office. The charade is over. The masks don't work. It's time to pull the plug on the mask program. What you're doing to these kids is awful. I have two kids, one going into Jacobson High next year, the other one going into middle school. And they have suffered due to the masks, and also not being in school was even worse. But it's time to pull the plug on this. It's crap, and they don't work. I think that can be shown. You can cite, citing stuff, but the fact is, you can see the results across the different nations, and they don't seem whether you use them or not. There's really no difference. In fact, the ones that do the more lockdowns, that have more mask compliance, tend to have more problems, it seems to me. So I would suggest that if you all want to get reelected, to kill this thing next year, get back to normal, you're going to pay a price for this, either in this life or the next one, because you're going to be responsible for what's going down with these kids' minds. I've seen it. I got one at home that's struggling, and the crap's got to stop. So good luck, God bless, and hope you all do the right thing. Cheers.
Thank you.
I've been here before, a couple of times. I'm a grandparent, so I have grandchildren in the Pinellas County schools. And I've asked this question before, and I still have not gotten a valid answer. What metrics are you using to make your decisions? All I ever hear is you're listening to Dr. Cho, and even Dr. Cho has a different recommendation for children at the county level than you have here. So again, I know this has been brought up, and yet you still continue with the masks for whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure. I heard Dr. Grego earlier say that the vaccines are available for all teachers in the Pinellas County school system. If that's wrong, then I misheard. But if that's true, you have absolutely nothing to prevent you from removing these masks from these children and allowing them to breathe in school. You've heard, I'm not going to repeat what all these people, all these good people have stated. There's science, there are emotional reasons, everything. Why? I can't ever get an answer from you guys. When does it end? And in regards to the First Amendment, trampling the First Amendment rights of that poor little girl that was just in here, you all should be ashamed, because that's just wrong. And maybe it's not you in particular because you weren't at the school and handling it, but if you don't handle it, then you should be ashamed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm here to stand with Alicia from Seminole Middle. All students and staff should have the right to free speech without fear of bullying from students and control tactics from the school principal. Bullying and gaslighting do not lead to student success, which is the mission here of Pinellas County Schools, right? I am here to share a success story for, oh, by the way, with that, I am asking for, and if it's not being done already, an investigation into the video and the erase video and the meetings with the doctors and the principals involved there. Dr. McCarron, I think Dr. Ross. I'm here to also share a success story for my daughter. This time last year, she was wrapping up a successful year of kindergarten at High Point Elementary. Today, she would be there in first grade, but in thanks to your mask requirement for in-person learning, I withdrew her and her funding from Pinellas County Schools, and I've been able to obtain a family empowerment scholarship from the state of Florida, which I applied for at stepupforstudents.org. This morning, I dropped her off at her new private school with a full scholarship directed towards school choice and empowering me as a parent to choose the best learning environment for her, which is there. By the way, they are a mask optional school, and the headmaster said his enrollment numbers have been going through the roof this year as they are now near capacity. I look forward to her enrollment there at that elementary for through middle school and then high school as well. Lastly, I'm here to demand that you unmask our kids and make masks optional for students as you look towards the plan for next year, which, because I'm sure this year's finished and written off with the mask requirements, but for a few reasons. The Pinellas County Commissioners have written an exemption allowing for parents' discretion to decide for their own children. Why aren't school parents not afforded the same discretion here? As mentioned, what are the standards and factors you're looking for to change and eliminate the mask requirement? We need straightforward, objective, definable transparency from this board. 100% student success, which your vision states, should encompass body, mind, and soul, not just the physical and body health. And as a knee-jerk reaction to address the physical aspect of student health, your mandate was adopted. But what is the mask doing to the mind and soul? We're losing human connection and personal touch. Students have gone this whole year without seeing a smile from their friends. Special needs students aren't able to see the full facial expressions of their teachers. Depression, substance abuse, youth suicide, and physical harm is on the rise. Have we consulted with mental health counselors, psychologists, trauma survivors in considering the health and wellness of our students holistically and how the masks may be negatively affecting them? The cure can't be worse than the disease. And finally, just to close, we need God, and I know that the meeting was open in prayer, but I'd like to offer this prayer over this school. So if you'll pray with me. God, as a country, we need you. As a county, we need you. As decision makers, as school board administrators and parents, we desperately need you, and we ask for you to be in this place, for your truth, for your strength, and for your hope to be in this place with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's scary being a parent. We are responsible for little humans' lives to keep them safe, to protect them the best way we know how. That's our right and our responsibility as parents. Part of those rights and responsibilities is to make decisions that are in their best interest up until they become an adult, from things as small as what they're going to eat, their clothes they're going to wear. And in the grand scheme of things, those are very small decisions with little to no repercussions, but still our decisions as parents to make nonetheless. Just as we make those minuscule decisions, we also make life or death decisions, most importantly, including healthcare. Once again, still our decisions to make as parents. My kids have been in care, whether they were at day camp or daycare, throughout this entire time, 2020, with no masks. And guess what? No COVID cases there. My oldest daughter and I both have severe asthma, and since starting back at school having to wear a mask, she has been out with chest problems numerous times, just recently struggling to breathe. But it wasn't just due to her asthma, it wasn't strep throat, it wasn't COVID, it was a bacterial infection in her lungs. I also have a first grader. She touches her face unbelievable amount of times a day, as most 5- and 6-year-olds do, just like you and I most do without even realizing it. So why put masks on our children when it has even been said by Dr. Fauci himself that frequent touching, whether it's to itch or move the masks, increases likelihood of spreading infections from exposed areas like your hands and face. This is a recipe for disaster. We send our kids to school to learn that trusting you guys to keep them safe in the schools with their staff will do staff will do part to watch our children, but who are any of you to decide what is best for my child or anyone else's child in considering their health? It's not for school staff or a board of members to make healthcare decisions, especially not opposing the choices of any parents. Every child is different, every parent is different, and we should all have a choice in the matter. A choice. Not everyone can afford to homeschool. I myself am a single mom, and my kids have to go to school even though wearing a mask is against my choice. These are our children. We have the ability to make these decisions and have them carried out while being able to send our kids to school for an education. So who are any of you to take that from us? And for what? A political advantage? Our governor and his board of health officials have deemed masks not only ineffective for children in schools, but also harmful for their development. Do the right thing and unmask our children, or at least give each parent and child a choice, as they very well should have.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you. I've been here before. This is my third time. I do want to say it's a strange experience when you come to the building as an outsider. Just to let everyone know, you kind of feel like a prisoner rather than a guest, and I felt that needed to be said because that's been talked about by just about everyone that's been in this building. The way that we're treated, it's very disempowering. It's very strange. So thought that was really important to tell you all, I'm sure you don't get the same experience that we do. I'm a mom of 2 kids here in Pinellas County. They are no longer in your school system due to the overstepping school guidelines that you put into place last summer. I couldn't bear to send my joyful and happy kindergartner to her first year of school to be emotionally and socially stunted by these so-called safety guidelines. So my kids are now safe from this conditioning in a school where parents and students are respected and health and medical decisions are not forced. And my kids can get a quality education without the fear agenda being constantly projected on them every single day. Without them being sent the message that they are walking germ and disease factories on a daily basis. They can be kids, they can learn, they can connect and thrive. And this is what all children in this district should be experiencing. And there's no reason that they shouldn't all be equal in this. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to speak up on behalf of those parents and the students and the teachers that can't be here, that haven't been able to make it because of work or other obligations. Or a lot of these teachers have the fear that if they come here to speak up and tell you what they're experiencing and the difficulties and the harm that they are seeing done to these children, that they will lose their jobs, that they will be fired. And that's really unfortunate, you know? So you don't have transparency, you don't have honesty. That's really, really a problem. I'm also a health professional who's been in the field for over 12 years. I've been teaching preventative health practices, and I have a really strong gut feeling that you board members, you don't actually know or understand what health actually is, how it's achieved, how it's maintained. That's also a problem. If you did, we would not have seen what we've seen take place in these schools. I just want to thank Lisa Kane. Your compassion for the children in this district, your use of logic, reason, common sense, you seem to be the only one who actually gets it, and I just want to applaud you for that. Please applaud Lisa. She's been amazing. Thank you. The rest of the board members here in this room, you've been apathetic in the face of endless amounts of data, numbers, professional health and medical warning about the trauma being inflicted onto our students in this district by forcing mandatory masks, cover half of their faces 5 days a week for 7 hours a day or more. Our children, along with the teachers here.
Thank you.
Unmask the children. It's time.
Hello. It is also my 3rd time approaching here, and it does feel a little bit like a prison. We enter a room with police officers, and as parents, we have to be babysat by a police officer in each individual room because I guess we may become out of control. But what originally brought me here was seeing your police staff lie about an assault that got removed, and then just seeing how they were overstepping their bounds. It wasn't originally a mask issue until I saw that the outcoming of information wasn't being taken on by the individuals here. And actually, I have to stop. The entire time that Deborah was talking, these 2 gentlemen here were clicking on their laptops, writing stuff down and answering emails. Why do you have a place where we can come and talk to you when only half of the people are looking at you, and even less than that are probably listening because they're doing something else that obviously is important and needs to happen right now, and they don't have other specific office time to get to those emails or write down those specific things. That's so disrespectful. I don't know how we're supposed to teach another generation when the adults can't be respectful, but we've got police watching us because we're gonna be disrespectful. The science keeps evolving, but the new information isn't being taken in. You know, you're supposed to teach children, people are supposed to be learning all the time. We get new science in and nobody's taking into account that we are abusing our children now. To have that information and to still tell our children that they have to mask up and do all of that is child abuse, and that's what you're asking us to do. Is abuse our children because it fits a certain narrative that you guys had before all of the information came out. I can understand in the beginning, and that's why originally I wasn't here for that in the beginning. Wear the mask, stop the spread. But after a year, when does it end? After the science comes in and tells us that it's not only harming our children, but it's not providing any benefit, where does it end? But other than that, you weren't voted in as leaders. Not one of you were voted in as leaders. You were voted in as a representative. And if you don't understand what the word representative means, it means to represent those that have voted you in. So as you can see by the numbers and the people that continue to come out here, that group outside that has been coming for 6 months for our children, by seeing the amount of people that are coming in, you need to vote with what we are asking you to do. Do as a representative and represent what the people are doing, because month after month after month after month, mothers and teachers are coming here to ask you for something that you're refusing to vote on. Be a representative and represent the people. Nobody voted for your opinion. We voted for you to represent ours. That's the whole point of being a representative of the people. But more than that, your officers need to be trained to not be able to lie about a mother here. They need to also offer an apology to a child that they harmed. And these gentlemen need to learn what it means to pay attention to something.
Thank you.
Next year, we can't do this. How many more kids need to kill themselves? How many more things need to happen? My friend's kid killed herself 3 months ago. 3 months ago, a 12-year-old hung himself. That's disgusting. You know whose heads that's on? You guys. You know why? The kid is not able to have normal functioning. His epilepsy came back. He couldn't handle it anymore. This kid went without epileptic seizures for almost 5 years until we put him back in a mask for a year. We took away his programs, and he killed himself. How disgusting is that? Like, why are we doing this? Where's the science? Where is it? There is no science. You have adults, okay, I had breathing problems. We had another woman who had a heart condition come up. We can't do this. I know for a fact. I see cops, I see firemen. I've been out without a mask on. I go to Publix every day. Third time I've worn one, only because we have to. It's out of control. Everything about it. You're disrupting the children. Tell them how much you don't like the mask.
How much you don't like the mask?
Say it's scary.
Scary.
It's scary when you can't see people's faces. It's scary when kids can't see a smile. It's just not normal. The bullying, the madness. Every time we have a meeting, we're all coming. Every time. There's more people outside, more people inside. This is out of control. When is it and what is it going to take? Next school year, this can't happen. There's more of us that have banded together that are going to do homeschooling. We're not going to come back to Pinellas County schooling. We're done. This will be the last year. My kid has got so many programs and so much going for himself, he can't do anything now. You guys have literally ruined a generation of children. Ruined. How can you go, oh, well, I'm going to keep the mask on again. Screw those little kids and their futures and their dreams and everything they've worked for. Everything. So what about my friend's kid, huh? The body's still sitting on ice because of COVID. I hope you all think about this every time. Every time. How sad if you had your son, your daughter, your neighbor's kid hang themselves because their epilepsy came back. I have nothing more to say to you people. I'm disgusted.
Thank you for your time and consideration. I have come today as a parent of a Pinellas County student, and I want to voice my dissent against the current blanket mask mandate for all students. I vehemently disagree with this policy, and I ask that it not be approved for the next school year. Parents should be allowed to make the decision to mask or not mask their children. It is not the place for the board to dictate this decision for our families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Children cannot wear their mask properly. They touch their mask constantly, therefore they contaminate it with more bacteria and viruses. Let's see, hold on, sorry. Children wearing masks dehumanizes them. It erases their expression and discourages communication. The children need to see what kids and adults are feeling. Part of socialization is from reading and interpreting facial expressions. Kids need to see smiles and be reassured there is joy in everyday lives. Thankfully, COVID has spared our children, but the same can't be said for the flu virus. During the H1N1 in 2009, 358 deaths occurred. Yet as of October 21st, with COVID, the children 0 to 17 years old, 108 children have died. That's less than 0.1% of all U.S. COVID deaths. Most kids don't have symptoms and don't have to be hospitalized. The children cannot learn speech and letter sounds without observing the lips and the facial emotions, which deprives the kids of enriching the conversations as an injustice that we will pay for in the long run. Masks teach our children to live in fear. They ponder their thoughts that they can't breathe the air because it will kill me or make me sick. This is what kids are thinking, and it's not good. Masks are bad for the body, mind, and soul. Let the parents decide whether masks are appropriate for their children. And this credit is given to Amy Young. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good, thank you. Hello, my name is Ashley Stoner. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I have never masked my children in this whole year that this has been going on. I kept them home and did the homeschooling. That didn't work out. My two oldest ones are honor roll students, very good students, and they were failing. They were having Fs in every single class. My 12-year-old has been singled out numerous times in school for his mask being improper. He's telling them he can't breathe. They are not honoring mask breaks in middle school. The teacher actually told me, how can we when we only have 48 minutes in a class? Not my problem. They're masked at PE all day long. He's gotten into an incident that the assistant principal told me that we would have to homeschool them again, or take them out and put them in the online schooling if we can't follow the rules. They've only been back for 2 months. My 7-year-old daughter has been sick twice. Hasn't been sick this whole entire year. She puts the mask on, she's extremely sick. She now has breathing issues every day. She's got asthma so bad that every single day I took her to the doctor, she's not sick. It's allergies and it's the mask. She has blisters all over her nose. She literally cannot breathe. And it's just insane what's going on because it's not fair. I can't breathe this on. I'm panicking right now. I'm sweating. Of course, it might be nerves too, but it's just not fair. They're not honoring breaks. They're not allowing kids to literally, at lunch, my son's got in trouble twice. They have to finish eating their food and immediately put the mask back on. They're not allowed to hang out with friends. None of this. Not to mention, it's literally, sorry. It's literally affecting so much going on in the school system, and they don't care. I got a phone call the other day about my 8-year-old again, and they are like, we care so much, we want to help you. I tell them my kids can't breathe the mask on. They need to have them off at PE. Well, if they're not social distancing, they can't have their masks off. I find it crazy because I go to Adventure Island and you have to put a mask on to walk into the door. As soon as you get in the door, have it off the rest of the time. How is that stopping the spread of COVID? It doesn't make any sense. The masks literally don't work, and we cannot breathe with them on. I don't understand why the school board is doing that, and you guys are doing it because you can, because people don't have choices. Next year, am pulling all 4 of my children out of schools, and I will be looking at private schools because there's numerous that give you the choice. Where there's risk, there must be choice, always. But that's all I have to say, so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, then this ends the portion of the public participation. Thank you very much. And we will do our evaluation as soon as people could get up here.